we go. The first thing that I'm going to talk to you about today is we're going to do a little bit with some selections of channels. As you all know, Photoshop has continued over the years to get better and better and better with their own internal AI tools with selecting objects, selecting subjects, select. And for things that have a very high contrast on them, they do pretty good job with that kind of stuff. But when you get into very complex selections where you got a really messy background, or you got very detailed things, or you got things with the colors are not really there's not high contrast between the colors. Those AI tools do a horrible job. So I'm going to show you a couple things today with channels and with calculations that you can use. These are not new techniques. They're very old techniques. Most high-end compositors, they don't use the AI tools. They might start out with them, but they quickly jump over to channels or some of the other older techniques because they just give you much more control. So what we're going to do today is I grabbed this particular tree, and you can see the complexity of all of this little blue in between these branches. And you might say, well, we'll just, select the blue and you might be able to get rid of that. And yes, there are many different ways to do selections, and I might do a blend if here, I might do a color range selection, but on this particular one, I'm going to show you how to do it with channels. So for those of you who have never used channels before, if you haven't and you go over here to your windows, you can turn on channels right here. And then make a tab of it. And when you come into the channels, I'll pull it out here for a second so that you can all see it easily. When you go into your channels panel, you're going to see your red, green, blue channel. That basically gives you your composite. And then each one of your channels, as you click on them, will show you your image with just the channel itself. When you work in channels, your goal is to find that channel that has the highest contrast to make a black and white image. Normally, when you're working with landscape, and I would say probably 80 to 90% of the time, the channel that's going to work the best for you will be the blue channel. So what you do is you go through the other ones, but again, selecting the blue channel is probably going to be your best friend. So what you want to do is you want to take this blue channel and you want to maximize the contrast. You want to turn it to basically a black and white image. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to make a duplicate of this. Now you can just drag it like you do layers, drag it down here to your plus sign here, and you'll get a thing that says blue copy. You never want to edit the actual channel itself, because if you start editing the channel itself, you're going to screw up your actual image. So you make a copy of the blue channel, and then what you do is you go into the levels adjustment, and you can do that with Control L and bring up your levels adjustment. And then you want to start moving your levels in order to, again, make this as black and as white as you possibly can get it. And you're not going to get it perfect. Get as close as you can. And then you're going to have to take a brush, and in these areas through here that you could not get that you couldn't get that contrast in, you're going to have to actually brush that in black. Okay, so you would use your black as your foreground color, take a brush, and using like a hard round brush, you would actually brush this in. To save time, I've already done that. I've already blackened that in. So I'm going to throw away that copy I just showed you. I've already done that in advance for you. Again, this is a time saver because we only have an hour. So I've done that. I've made the copy. I've blackened in everything that I want to be the selection, if you will. And now I want to load this channel as a selection. Well, when you load a channel, it loads the light pixels, not the dark pixels. But to load the selection down here on the bar, you see this little dot, these little dots. If you click on that, you'll see that we've loaded the white pixels. So we can inverse that selection with Control-Shift-I. That's how you invert a selection. So now I have selected the tree, the black pixels. Now I can come back over to my layers panel and I have my image here. And if I apply a mask to the image, I now have a selection using that mask that I created on the channel. Now, you say, well, yeah, that's a great selection, but you have all that haloing. Well, yes, I do have that haloing, and regardless of what selection technique you've used, I'm sure you've all selected trees before, and regardless of the type of tree, you know that you're going to get the edges of the leaves are going to take on the blue background, because the more transparent those edges are, and you see this with hair selections, fur selections, tree selections, the tips are so transparent that they actually take on the color cast of your background, whether that be blue or green or pink, it doesn't matter. They're going to take on that background. So now we have to fix those edges. So not only did I say in my class today that we were going to talk about selections, we were going to talk about fixing those halos. So here's how you fix those halos. We're going to do on this particular image, we're going to fix them with a couple of hue and saturation layers. So again, to save some time, I've already fixed them, and then I'm going to demonstrate for you how I did that. So we're going to do the fixes with a couple of hue and saturation layers. So I have a couple already done. We're going to fix the blues, and then we're going to fix the cyans. So if you look at this image now, we have almost a near perfect selection of that tree. And you could now take that and you could stamp that up to the top, and you have a perfect selection that you could then use as a composite. So how did I isolate all of that tiny little blue in between? I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to demonstrate for how you do that. Okay. So here's our image, and we've got all that blue and cyan in there. Here's how you use the hue and saturation to target just those tiny little areas. I'm going to put a hue saturation layer over the top, and I'm going to start with my blues. I'm going to zoom in here close so that you can see, and I'm going to take my little hand here on the hue and saturation. This is what you call your targeted selection tool in the hue and saturation layer. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on one of these blues. And when I click on that blue, I want the blue. Let me get in here close. Let's get the blue. Come on, blue. Well, it keeps telling me I'm on cyan. Okay, let's come up here. Okay, you see now on my hue and saturation thing that I now have the blue channel selected. Okay, so now let me zoom out a little bit. I'm going to take my two sliders. I'm on the blue channel, and I am going to push both of these top sliders all the way up. and you'll see that I now have these weird reds all through my image, right? Reds and purples. I did that so that I could actually see what I'm targeting down here on my color bar. And I'm going to pull these things out somewhat. And if you're not familiar with this bar down here, what this means is that anything between the middle bar is 100% selected, and everything between the outside triangle and the bar is where it's feathered the selection. And now you can see that if I zoom back in here and I put these things over here so that I have a visual of what I'm targeting, you can see that I am now targeting all of that fringe, if you will, around the edges of my fronds on this tree, which is exactly what I want to do. I want to target all that blue, okay? And now that I know where my target is, and I'm missing some cyans, but that's okay because we're in the blue channel right now. Now I can bring my things back because I've set my target. So now don't touch these. Now I can take and I can change the color of that, what I have targeted, and we can push that back over to some color of green that matches the color of the frond. Okay, so now all of these tips are no longer blue. They're now the color that I want them to be. And now we can look through our image and say, well, did we miss anything? Well, yes, we still have a bunch of cyan through here, see? So now we're going to put a second one on here. And this time we're going to target these cyans. So we're going to come down here and we're going to target this cyan. And you see this time, let's get into the cyans. That says it's green. We don't want to target green. We need to target cyan. Let's see if we can target this cyan. Well, maybe
Hello.
we do.
Good morning, sir. This is Alex from Dell Technician. I'm coming to you to fix the computer. Is that okay?
Is someone talking to me?
Sounds like they're on the phone.
Okay, so it's saying that it's in the green channel, so we'll just go ahead and go with that. We'll pull it over here. And we'll make sure that we're targeting just those colors. Now, see how down here, another little hint for you. See how this down here, the bar is wrapping around? If you hold down your control key and you grab this bar, see how you get the little hand? Can you all see that?
Yes.
You can hold the control key down, put the little hand, and you can slide this back to the middle. That way you don't have to try to deal with your color bar wrapping around, because if you've ever seen the color wheel, it really is a circle, but down here it's a bar, but there's red on this, red and pink on this end and red and pink on that end. And Photoshop gives you a bar because it can't wrap that around, but it is really a circle. So if you ever get to the point where the color targets something and half of your target is over here and half of your target is over here, hold down your control, get your hand, and then you can slide this thing back to the middle so that when you try to work with your targets, you are not trying to wrap that thing around the edge of the selection. So now I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see that we only want to target any color that we want to get rid of. And so these colors in between here, see how we got these highlighted? That's why we do this visual, so we can see exactly what we're targeting. And once we've got our target, we can turn that back into, like, desaturate it, make it more of an olive color. And now we can zoom back out and you see the combination of those two hue and saturations took all of those weird sky colors out of my image. And now I have a really good selection. Okay. So that was a channel selection. Now, the other thing that I want to just mention to you, and I don't have time to do it today, because like I said, selections could be like, you know, a whole day. I just wanted to note for you, when you are doing channel selections, I did a red, green, blue selection, but sometimes your image would do better if you could use a yellow, a magenta, or a cyan selection. There's nothing to say that you can't make a copy of this image. And that's what I did over here. I actually made a copy of this image, and I actually turned that image into, I went into the mode and made this copy a CMYK image rather than a red, blue, green image. And when I did that, then when I go to the channels, I can get a yellow channel instead of a blue channel. The advantages for me, and when I originally did this, I used the yellow channel, because when I did levels on a yellow channel and I pulled over the levels, it gave me a much better selection, and I did not have to paint the tree hardly at all, and the sky stayed absolutely white. So when you're using channels, don't limit yourself to just a red, blue, green image. If you see lots and lots of yellow in your picture, you may want to just grab the image, and that when you're on an image, you can, let's go back to the original image. If I was here, turn everything off. If this was my original image and I wanted to make another copy of that image, I can just go here, say duplicate layer, go down here and say new, and name that layer like CMYK, and it will make me a copy of that image. And then I can turn that mode into CMYK, and I will get all three of the other channels of the CMYK colors. So again, not time to do it today, but just wanted to note that there is a way to use all 6, 7 channels without at 4 channel selections. You're not limited to just red, blue, green. Okay, let's move on.